Hello and welcome to the conclusion of the second round slash opening of the third round episode of the Pacific Perspectives podcast. I'm Nux Memes. That's Kyler Mimamoto, and we're joined, seemingly as always, by Rory. Hi, Rory.
It's an honor to be on every time.
Thank you.
You couldn't have said that with less real in your voice. Um, we have a couple series to go through. It won't be as much of a nightmare as it was after the first round because the series were cut in half, so that's helpful at least. Um, I do before we get into that. I got two things to talk about, which I'll do really fast. First of all, the Abbotsford Canucks are in the third round of the Calder Cup playoffs. They're playing the Colorado Eagles. Series currently tied 1-1, and it's been entertaining to watch. They're a good team, good young team. Every single player in the lineup, besides four, have played an NHL game at some point, and I think like 12 of them played a game for Vancouver this season. So there's a lot of interest for Vancouver fans beyond it just being the farm team. Particularly, a guy who's standing out is Victor Mancini. I've talked about that. This dude he's huge. He's a big guy, and then but like sometimes he just turns into Cale Makar, and he's definitely the Cale Makar in the AHL. Like you can tell he's a step above everybody else. So it's making me really excited because maybe we got our third pairing right defenseman sorted for next season. He definitely showed some signs of brilliance in his time with Vancouver this season, and he's got the size, he's got the skill, he's a fast guy. So go Abbotsford. Got to go to Colorado now for the last three games of the series. Hopefully they can close it out on road ice. But I believe in them. I believe in them to get it done if the refs stop screwing us over. And I don't say that for Vancouver, but I can say it for Abbotsford because I'm not as locked in. And then the second thing, before we go into NHL hockey, is I want to give a big congratulations to the Ottawa Charge for
Bang!
making the Walter Cup Finals as the first Canadian team to have made it to that mark in these first two seasons. They're playing against Minnesota. I have a particular interest because the team plays literally a 10-minute walk away from me. So I didn't even think they were going to make playoffs this season, and it looked like they weren't going to make playoffs for a while, but they snuck in. Montreal chose to play them, and then Montreal got destroyed. And now Ottawa's in the finals. So I'm hoping I can go to a game. I'm a little bit broke, but go Ottawa.
That whole choose your
Hold on.
opponent in the playoffs thing is really dangerous, I gotta say.
It is. I agree. Just because it just gives so much it's just like bulletin board material. It's like, oh, these guys think we're trash, and
Yeah.
let's go ahead and beat them. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's and the Ottawa crowd chanting like, you chose us. Like, to be fair, that is actually sick. Like, they absolutely should do that. But like, man, it's tough.
There's no way for Montreal to avoid it. They had to pick someone. And
Yeah,
they probably
exactly.
picked right with Ottawa, to be honest, but
Yeah.
don't work.
All right, well, I
Okay,
guess we
so do we
can
want
get
to?
into the Leafs here because that's definitely new on the plate here. And
Yeah.
it feels like everyone's already forgotten how this entire series already. Like, do you even remember what happened in game one? I do, but like it's not relevant anymore because they lost that game seven in such an embarrassing fashion that now all that's left to ask are just like philosophical questions about the team, the core, and the Leafs. I don't recall a more humiliating game seven loss. Um, I just there's seriously no more words left for this group. I have tons to say about it, but does anyone have any actual thoughts on the game before we get started?
I was disappointed. I wanted it to be a close game at least.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
obviously, I wanted Toronto to win. I had my profile picture blue and everything. But I wanted it to be at least close, and then it was a repeat of game five. And Toronto just didn't even try. Like, I think Florida had three goals in the second period before Toronto got two shots. I don't know what's wrong with them. I was so frustrated watching it, and I didn't have that much of a stake in it. Because, like, how is it possible for them to do this seven times in a row with this group? How can, you'd think at some point they'd look into winning one of those game sevens, but they just don't. It's kind of funny, but it's also, like, really sad because they have a really good team. but they just can't get over that hump. No matter who they're playing, they can play the shit-ass Montreal Canadiens in 2021, and they'll still lose in Game 7, even if they have a 3-1 lead in the series.
It's just a mathematical, like, anomaly. I honestly don't think there's anything like it in North American sports, at least. There's probably some, like, Asian Super Football League that has done something like this that we don't know about. But, like, the Leafs are just so... They get in their own heads. You could see as soon as that first goal went in, and even before that, for the first, I believe the shots were 8-0 before the Leafs got a genuine scoring chance. They had, I think Steven Lorentz alone had 3 breakaways. He had 2 full breakaways and 1 partial breakaway, and he did not have a genuine shot. He didn't have an actual good chance at scoring on Bob in any of those chances. There were multiple good chances the Leafs had while it was still tied, or they had that one when it was 1-0 only. But then you could see as soon as it went in, as soon as that second one went in, they just gave up. Do you think any other team in the league, any team, even like the Anaheim Ducks, do you think they would fall over and just lay over and take it like that? No. Steve Dangle said it very... I encourage you guys to all go watch his LFR and the end of his stream last night, because it was very sad, but it was also very interesting, because he was kind of just resigned to it all. Like, he's kind of numb to it, which I understand. He said that over this tenure, the Leafs are so good that they physically cannot miss the playoffs, but they're so bad that they just can't win important games. They just can't. And a big thing I think it is more to them being like a fragile mental group. I think part of that is maybe true in the case of like Marner, but seriously, it can't be true for that entire team. I mean, all 20 guys on this team come from like wherever. They've come from their own stories, their own set of teams. They might have came from a team last year that had actually won. In the case of the few like Panthers, they had like OAL. And it just spreads to everyone in that locker room because the core 4 is so mentally weak because they panic whenever they face any adversity in a tough game. There has never been any adversity in a tough winner-take-all game, and they've pulled through. Never. They've never been down and come back. Ever. Ever. And think about how many times that the Edmonton Oilers, who are a terribly flawed team, I'd say up until like very recently, have come back from those types of games. Not even just on the back of Connor McDavid, but on the back of like just anyone on the team. At least fight for it. At least fight for it, even if you're a bad team. And the Leafs are a supposedly good team, or they should be a good team, and they just don't fight for it. They're just mentally weak.
I think the most damning part of it all is they come out for the third period, and Domi scores within the first, 2.5 minutes?
Yeah.
And that ignites the crowd a little bit. All of a sudden you get to thinking like, oh, if they get like a second before the 10-minute mark, or even before the 5-minute mark, like, you know, we've got a real game here. And, you know, the Panthers aren't perfect, and obviously the Panthers are a good team at defending a lead, but you get that early goal, and it's like maybe the Leafs can do it. And then a minute later, like, Louis Terrainen is wide open in front for a deflection that beats Wall. You can say Wall maybe should have had that, but it was a good deflection, and Louis Terrainen should not have had that much time and space to just deflect a shot in front. And that was it. They were dead. The amount of times where you can see a goal deflate the Leafs in these big games, I think of, you know, any of the Columbus goals in Game 5 of 2020, especially the Liam Foudy one. I think of the Brendan Gallagher goal in 2021. I think of the Nick Paul goal, either of them, I guess, in 2022. And I think of basically every goal this game, but specifically the Jones one and the Louis Terrainen one. Just the energy, whether there's a crowd or not, like the ones during COVID, you can just see it saps the energy. There's no fight. It's oh my god, it's happening again.
Yeah.
And I think you're right that it comes down to the mentality of the core 4. But I think the bigger problem here is that they didn't change it when they had the chance. And now, where do you go?
Yeah.
Like you're not going to be able to recoup assets for Marner and Tavares if you say you're going to move on from them. You could have for Marner a couple of years ago before that no move clause kicked in. Tavares maybe not because he never would have left.
Yeah.
Like what do? Your defense is improved this year, I guess you could say. Like I think Tanev was excellent. I think OEL was a good addition, but Riley's begun to fall off. Carlo was not what he probably should have been, considering what was given up for him and what he had done in past years in Boston. Maybe not so much this year, but the whole Boston team was a mess. Like Tanev's getting older, McCabe's not getting any younger. Riley has shown signs of falling off. Like, and you have no assets to go out and acquire a number one defenseman. There's not really one in free agency that you're going to be able to go and get. I don't think Aaron Ekblad's that guy if he even gets there. So what do you do?
If they got him though.
It would be really funny.
It
would be really funny if they got him, and then the random guy the Panthers go out to get to replace Ekblad becomes better instantly.
I just know it's.
Yeah, I don't know how you move forward from this. Like, obviously Marner's leaving in free agency. The quotes, the reporting coming out of it, he's done. He can't do it anymore. I don't blame him. I hope he goes somewhere where he can have some fun and raise his family and whatnot. But he's gone, and I don't see a path for the Leafs to fill that hole with someone who can actually do something. Because in general, their team is going to be worse next year. I would argue the team is worse this year than it was 2 years ago.
Yep.
Aside from goaltending,
I'd agree with that.
And like, this is, you said it last night, Xavier, on Instagram. This is the end of an era. Like, this is it. This was their last chance, and they lost another game 7, and that's it. Matthews and Nylander will still be there. There are everyone else who's under contract will still be there. I don't think Berube or Tree Living is going anywhere, though. I have a hard time believing Brendan Shanahan is coming back, so that puts everyone else below whoever the new president of hockey ops that comes in under a more of a microscope. But I don't know. You've changed the coach, you've changed the depth, you've changed the general manager, you've changed everything but the core. The core has to change now. The Shanna plan failed. That's it.
Going into this year, I already kind of felt the energy from Leafs fans was just a resigned, like, I seriously do not care about one regular season game, unless it's like against the Habs or something like that. All that matters is, can we, like, even make it to the finals would probably be enough for Leafs fan to be like, okay, there's something going to happen here. Almost,
they got booed off the ice in Game 7 of the second round.
Yeah, and with like 11 minutes left.
Yeah, it was finals or bust. Like, they were throwing jerseys on the ice with like 15 minutes left. Yeah,
tens of jerseys.
It was legitimately, it was finals or bust, and everyone knew that. They won the Atlantic for the first time this year. This is the first time they ever actually won the Atlantic. Like, they won the North Division in 2021, but that's fake.
That doesn't count.
They had never won the Atlantic before this year. It would either be Florida or Boston or Tampa beforehand.
Man, JC, what are your thoughts?
It's kind of funny. Back in 2021, that it was perfectly crafted for them to make it to the conference finals. And they lost to Montreal anyway. That division was so ass.
It was terrible.
Yeah. But yeah, every chance they blew it. And like you said, they had a 3-1 lead in that series against a Montreal team that limped into the playoffs, that had multiple players like with career-ending injuries, and they let Montreal back into the series, and then Montreal went on that run, which obviously was fun for me. But like, I don't. Every single time this group has ever had a chance, every time, like in 2023 when Dubas went all in, they finally beat Tampa. They slayed the Dragon, and then they got destroyed by Florida. You think of the late 2010s when they faced those really good Boston teams, and they couldn't beat them. They couldn't beat Columbus in the play-in round in 2020, and you can say it's the bubble, and like, that's not real hockey, but I don't know. Like 2022, they faced Tampa after back-to-back cups and couldn't beat them, whatever. Last year, they faced a Boston team on their last run, and they couldn't beat them. Like, they can't beat anyone. The only teams they've beaten in the playoffs were 2023 Tampa, where they finally got to Vasilevsky and Tampa was dead tired, and it seemed like the end. It now seems like the end of the run for Tampa in some ways as well. And they beat Ottawa this year in their first year making the playoffs.
Yeah,
and
their first year.
Do you remember the vibes after Game 5 when the Leafs laid an egg at home? Again, that's been a theme these playoffs. The amount of eggs the Leafs have laid at home Do you remember the vibes around there? People
Yeah.
thought the Senators were going to come back and reverse sweep.
It was over.
Like the fact that against an Ottawa team in their first, like, an Ottawa team that was pretty decent this year, like, deservedly a wild card 1 team, but you lose 2 games against an Ottawa team, and all of a sudden it's all over. And it took, that Pacioretty goal in game 6 after they choked another 2-0 lead. By the way,
It wasn't even Matthews or
in that
Marner.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only big goal Matthews scored all playoffs was game 6 against Florida, the 1-0 goal. And that was Marner had the primary assist on that. That was
I just
like, what do you do?
One thing. Do you know who had the most shots in Game 7 among the Leafs? There were 2 people tied for 3 shots. Can you guess?
Scott Lawton.
No. Good guess,
Steven
though.
Lorentz?
It was not Steven Lorentz. Somehow he actually only got 1 shot out of his 3 breakaways.
Tell me one of them.
It was Simone Benoit and Bobby McMahon, both undrafted.
Jesus.
Both
Fine.
undrafted.
Simone Benoit, after scoring an overtime goal, thought he was Bobby Orr all playoffs.
I just,
Oh, well.
you know what? Marner's gone, but who else? Because I started this before, but I don't think I actually got anywhere with it. The energy in this season for most of the regular season was just get to the playoffs. I seriously don't care. Like, I'm not even watching all the games. Just, I do not care. And then it started to be a bit of excitement. But they were playing hard, gritty hockey under Berube, and people saw that there was a path to win there. And I was saying for most of the season that this is actually the worst Leafs team that we've had since probably 2020. And they did end up beating the Senators. I didn't think they'd even get past the Senators, so I was a little wrong there. And then, you know what? In a vacuum, they did take the Cup champs to 7. Doesn't matter how they lost in that Game 7. That's still a solid achievement, I'd say. They won 3 games there. And they won 3 pretty convincing games, too, I gotta say. But because of just how far this core has come, just to show up like that. I think if you lose in overtime in Game 7, it's maybe a little different. Maybe you keep Tavares. Maybe there's a little bit of hope. But the way you lost Game 7, I don't think there's any other game in history where the result matters a lot more, or like how you lost matters more than the actual result. This is how you lose fans. Like, straight up, who is excited for next season? Nobody. Nobody's excited for next season, because unless you completely tear it down and go into it with a new coach, maybe just Nylander, like trade Matthews. Like, even if you go into next season with Matthews and Nylander and Morgan Riley, that is still like basically an identical team. You just don't have Marner. You just don't have Tavares, who are pretty good players, and then they kind of, I'd say they drop off a little bit in the playoffs. It's definitely a little overblown. But man, for me, you have to get rid of everything in order to bring the fan base back, because nobody is watching this team anymore. Think about, and ticket prices are going up like 15-20% next season. They might not sell out a lot of games, because who is watching this team just to lose in 7 to, I don't know. They can lose it to anybody. They can lose it to the Habs. Are going to make it next year. They're going to lose to them. It doesn't matter. You have to get rid of everybody. And I don't care if it's your fault. Brad Trey leaving was a terrible hire. He's made a few good decisions, but he also made a lot of bad decisions. Terrible hire. He should be gone. Every single player that has played besides like maybe OEL and Chris Tanev should be gone. I don't care what you get for them. You're to the point where the way that they've lost is so illogical. The way that you have to reconstruct this team has to be illogical as well, or at least tear it down has to be illogical. Literally, get rid of everyone. Get rid of the water boy. Get rid of all the training staff. Burn the building down. Make a new building like across the road. Make a new highway. Redesign the logo. Turn the jerseys red, and then you come back as the Toronto Maple Sap, or like the Toronto Syrup team. Just the Maple Leafs name at this point. Like, seriously, what do you do? Give me an answer.
You know who
Give me
I
an
want
answer.
to see the Leafs go for in free agency?
Mitch Marner.
I was thinking about it yesterday. I think they should go for Vladislav Gavrikov. Because imagine like a Gavrikov-Tanev pairing. That would be
It's too
gas.
much grit. It's
It
too
would be good,
much
but like
grit.
I don't know how different that is to McCabe Tanev. I
Yeah,
actually think one of
Gavrikov's
the
better.
problems, not that Gavrikov's better than McCabe, I agree, but I don't think I think that goes further into one of their problems this playoffs is that they lean too hard on non-puck moving defenders. I think one of like I've defended Dubas a lot because I actually think if he stayed in 2023, if Shanahan decided to keep him and they extended his contract, he would have traded Marner. He understood that there needed to be change, and they brought in Tree Living, and Tree Living said, "Why don't we run this back with my idea on the
Yep.
rest of the roster?"
They leaned
And
into
I
the
think
grit.
Tree Living leaned too much onto these defensive defensemen, and it actually started happening under Dubas too. The Sandin trade that ended up getting the Eric Gustafsson. I like Eric Gustafsson. He serves a role for teams. There was a problem there.
Savard.
They didn't like how Rasmus Sandin wasn't going to handle the Tampa Bay forecheck that year. They built that entire 2023 roster to beat Tampa, and they did. They beat Tampa, and then they lost to Florida because Florida played in a different way. They forechecked it in a different way. You needed better puck moving defensemen to get past Florida because if you can get in behind. You could see like Florida's played the same way for 3 years under Maurice now. It's not a secret. They're just really good at it. But you can get space in behind them. You can find breakaways. You can find odd man rushes. The Leafs did that this series. They did that in Game 7. Like you said, Steven Lorentz had 3 huge chances. The problem is he's Steven Lorentz, and you couldn't get Matthews or Nylander those chances. They got Domi one of them, and he scored on it. Like,
Yep.
it's the problem is their defensemen don't move the puck well enough, and they got hemmed in by Florida so many times. Look at that second period. Look at the first half of the first period in Game 7. Like, the amount of times of like Florida, their defense would pinch in as the Leafs would, chip it up the boards. It would get held on the boards, sent back down low. A Florida forward would be first on it, and there'd be pressure again and again and again. It was dominance. Like they went so hard into these. We need these big burly defensemen that are going to protect the front of the net. And they relied on basically Riley and OEL to be their only puck movers, and Riley can't do it anymore. Riley has not been a very good defenseman this year at all. He and Carlo struggled immensely all
Yeah.
series. OEL was fine in a sheltered third pairing role with Simone Benoit, but Tanev McCabe is a good defensive pairing. They did their job well enough. Riley Carlo was not good enough because Riley hasn't been good enough, and instead of recruiting over Riley, they've tried to get partners that will bring him back. They probably needed to trade or figure out a way to trade Marner and acquire a true number one defenseman in 2023 when Morgan Riley kind of begun to take a step back. And instead they kept Riley, tried to find different partners for Riley, and just ran it back. And it just compounded their problems, and now you're here. Now you're stuck.
What's ironic is
It's either, like
the
you said,
Oilers
you tear it down
leaned.
or you leave it.
What's ironic is the Oilers leaned into a Evan Bouchard, John Klingberg, Jake Wallman, like kind of soft. They actually are kind of big and physical guys. That's not how they play. But they leaned into those puck moving D, and you can see it with Seth Jones on Florida too. I think we're beginning to see that puck moving is a lot more valuable than being able to lay a body or being able to handle a forecheck. I don't know exactly why. I am not really prepared to go into a ton of the technical stuff, but that's definitely where we're leaning. You can see it on every single good team. Look at Carolina's defense. They have guys that are puck moving first, and then, especially with coaching style, again with Dallas as well, you can move the puck as a skill, and you can lay the body as part of your system. I don't think it's very valid. The Kings did the exact same thing. Look at who they have on defense, like away from Doughty. They stopped playing Jordan Spence. They stopped playing Brant Clark, and it cost them. You need to have the back end able to just cycle it out quick, be able to shake off guys with pressure. And those bigger guys who are all just about defending and sometimes aren't even very good at it, they can't do that. They cannot maintain that pressure. There were so many times in that series, even against Ottawa, where I felt the defense just killed all the momentum that the kind of cycle that Toronto had going, because they either lost the puck, made the wrong decision with the puck along the wall. Like, how many times? I'm sorry to make it about Edmonton. It is an Edmonton podcast, but every single time an Oilers defenseman gets the puck in the O-zone, they 99% of the time they make the right decision. And it could be just coaching, it could be just the style of play that they come with, but like, who is the worst puck moving defenseman on the Oilers? Like Troy Stetcher or Ty Emberson, and they would probably be not in the bottom 3 of who's Toronto's worst puck moving defenseman. And it's the same thing with Florida. Like, maybe you have like a Nico Mikkola, who I guess he can move the puck sometimes, but they just leaned into the wrong style. They are trying to play like 2010s hockey. They're trying to be the 2010s Boston Bruins, Chicago Blackhawks, and that's just not the style that it is right now. They're just 10, 15 years behind, and I think that forever cost them. It's a wasted decade, a completely wasted decade. And it honestly just kind of hurts to look back on the real hope that this team had. Oh, JC's putting his contacts in. Now he can see us. Is that all we had to say for Toronto? We've literally been here for half an hour.
I wanted to say that Chris Tanev deserves better.
He did. I thought he
True.
played really well in that series.
Yeah, he's by far their best defenseman.
Like, that's a guy
Rory
who...
has an actual setup. What the heck?
Yeah,
This
I
is
know.
the
Just lost my
draft. This is the
contact.
draft stream setup.
Yeah.
Where'd my contact go?
Tanev, I thought, that's a type of guy who can move the puck, not at the cost of being great defensively. But he's so good at moving the puck sometimes because he's good defensively, and he can, take the body in the correct spaces. He's not just dumb physicality like sometimes like Simone Benoit is, or a Jake McCabe.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
it could be so.
Tanev doesn't chase hits.
Yeah. You know what? One more thing on Mitch Marner. I think people are talking about... actually, no, 2 things. Do you buy that media or fan pressure is to blame for how they've performed here?
No,
Not like fully,
It's-
no.
I mean, like, obviously pressure is something that you have to deal with.
Something that you put in
I wouldn't
tires.
say, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of that is just the Panthers, just saying stuff to say stuff, just to be funny, just to get the media going a little bit. And like it exists, but in a vacuum, like I don't know. The Blackhawks have a ton of media pressure. They're an original 6 market, and they won no problem last decade with a bunch of skill players and whatever. Like, I think it's just a Toronto thing. Like,
Yeah. How much pressure do the Oilers have, having the best,
Yeah, exactly.
possibly the best player of all time, and they haven't won a cup yet? That's a lot of pressure.
yeah,
How much pressure did
how
the
much pressure did
Canucks
the
have in
Penguins have?
2011? Yeah, the Penguins. How much pressure do the Habs have? Well, actually, I guess they didn't really have a lot of pressure in 2021.
no, yeah, it's
Especially
a
with no
tougher
fans.
discussion. Yeah, it's a tougher discussion with the Habs. You could have said like 2014. I guess they made the conference final. They would have been under pressure that year. I think they were the only Canadian team in the playoffs that year, if I remember correctly. It feels right. They were under pressure that year for sure. That was the year after the year of Price. Being kind of coming out as the best goalie in the world. They were under pressure. They wanted a run. Obviously, other stuff happened, and a conference final run isn't all that insane.
But still,
like, I don't know. It happened. Like, you can't just blame the media and the fans are too hard on them. That's why they don't win.
Yeah.
Like, maybe Toronto's the biggest market in the league. Maybe they're not. That cannot be an excuse.
I think it's a lazy narrative for sure. They're just. It's not about, like, every team has fan pressure, and definitely Toronto has, if not the most, one of like top 3 most pressure to win in the league, especially at this point in their tenure with that core. But
They've done it to
that's not
themselves,
the
though,
answer
too.
for their entire tenure with the core, right?
No.
I just it's a lazy narrative. But also, so Marner's gone. We can say we can predict where he will go, but I think a big thing if we want to talk about Marner, where he goes now is a real Canucks. Do they even have the cap
We have the
space?
money. We
That's
low-key
why
have the money.
I'm so confused about people saying to the Oilers because I don't know where you're getting that money. But I think where he chooses to go, and he does get a choice. Every single team is going to want him except for maybe Toronto.
Didn't you say
if-
he's going to go to the Oilers? Are
I
you
don't-
one of the guys who said that?
I think they're interested, but I just don't know.
Well, obviously, they're interested. Yeah, when the 100-point winger, who was McDavid's winger at the Four Nations, by the way, is on the market, you probably at least give the agent a call. Like, hey, like, what can we do here?
It's gonna say a lot about his character where he chooses to go. If he goes to like a Southern team, like okay, first of all, if he goes to Carolina, I think he's getting like shot up on the airplane to Carolina. If he goes to Florida, also there's a bomb in your suitcase. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah.
If he goes to Tampa, again, there is a pipe bomb in your mailbox at your new address. If he goes to California, could happen. Maybe he's a shark. Maybe not as bad. But again, if he goes to one of those southern markets, I think that's him clearly showing that he's a pussy. That is, you cannot deal with the pressure. You don't want to see the pressure, and you want to lay low. Which, like, you can do whatever you want.
Can't blame him after what he's gone through in Toronto.
I can't blame him. Yeah, you're right. I can't blame him. But if he goes to a Vancouver, an Edmonton, a Calgary, maybe even an Ottawa, that'd be pretty funny. If he goes to another Canadian market, or at the very least, like Minnesota, Rangers, Islander, like something kind of high pressure like that, not as high pressure as Toronto, because I don't think that's possible. I think though he's going to do very well for himself. But if he goes to another Southern team, he's not going to win, because that is just very. You clearly show to everyone that's just a forever chirp. You escape the pressure. You can't handle it. You are admitting to yourself that that is a challenge that you cannot take. I understand it from Marta's perspective. You've been in there for 9 years now, and it's terrible. But if he goes to like another Canadian team, I think it's going to be very good for them. That's why I'd be excited if I was Edmonton to take him.
What if you go to
I want to see him
Utah?
as a Red Wing.
Utah, I could see. Utah is kind of in between, isn't it?
They're kind of weird just because they're so new. So like, and new branding this year too. It helps. Like I think they'll have a lot of attention on them.
Yeah.
Just in terms of who they are, and they're a young team on the up. And if you sign the biggest free agent, you're always going to get some form of attention.
Yeah.
They've got the space. I think it would be fun.
They definitely could give them the most money for sure. Them and the Hawks.
Yeah.
Hawks too.
He could go to Utah or maybe the Hawks too.
You're not getting a reaction out of me. I think he's a Blackhawk.
I
It makes
just got my
sense.
joke said louder.
Maybe if you say it again. Maybe if you say it again, I'll laugh.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
Just
exist on this
say it.
podcast anymore. Okay, let's make up all the time we.
Are there any other series that like happened?
Oh my god! I can't get a word in. I can't say a fucking word. Oh my god!
All right, you can talk now. You have
It's in the middle of
permission.
my fucking sentence.
You have permission.
Let's make up all the time we just lost by motoring through Carolina, Washington. I got nothing to say other than like yeah, Carolina plays a boring game, but I also respect it because it's winning hockey. That's it. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, for the Caps, this is just PDO heater coming down. It was obvious. I don't think anyone really had the Caps past the second round, maybe even the conference finals. This is just the expected result. The Hurricanes played their style of hockey perfectly, and the Caps fell into it. And I think the biggest part of that is they got the goaltending, and in Game 5, Thompson let in some of the ugliest goals I've ever seen in my life. Those were really bad. I actually don't think the Canes got a lot of great chances in that game, ironically.
No.
But some of the two worst chances they had went in. Good for them. and Svechnikov finally scores a big goal in his career. But it wasn't that interesting of a series. Ovi didn't really do much. That was all we were really looking out for.
And say, yeah, to give the Capitals some credit, they are actually a pretty good defensive team. Like they're kind of built, I feel like, as an offensive team with like a deep, roll 4 lines, whatever, and then Ovi scores on you. Other than like that Ovi Strome line, the rest of them are all really good defensively, and their decor is legitimately good. Like you think of Chikrin, Carlson, Sandin, Roy, Farivari, I guess is hurt, but like they have a lot of good defensemen, who move the puck well and defend well, like we were talking about earlier. But yeah, I don't know, they're just. I didn't even think they were that good against Montreal. They won 3 1-goal games, one 2-goal game, and then lost that game 3. Like they were the better team, no doubt, but like you beat the wild card 2 in 4 close games. And it was a bad wild card 2 at that. Like Montreal was not a good possession team.
Yeah.
They had under 90 points. Like they were just happy to be there. It was an amazing season by Montreal, and honestly, it was still a very good season by Washington. Like, it feels weird that the 1 seed in the East losing the second round can still be kind of seen as like a really good season, but it's kind of how it is. Carolina, I don't know. Carolina was the favorite,
yeah,
and they rightfully won. I don't know. There's not much to say. I'll refer to the Heat Daddy stream of him sleeping through the entire game.
That was a good one. JC, anything to say?
I already said what I needed to say.
Oh, well, that's good. All right, that lasted about 2 minutes. That's all you get, Caps Canes. Half an hour plus a little bit for Toronto. 3 minutes for Caps Canes. There was one more thing I wanted to say. Yeah, they losing Backstrom and Oshie for that matter. Breaking news, very bad for their playmaking. It feels like they really don't have anyone out there. Strome is good, but he's not a true 1C. Maybe he is now, if you're talking about top 32.
Don't disrespect Dylan.
He probably is. He probably is.
He was great in the playoffs, too.
I'd actually probably say he was a top 20 center this season, but like as a pure like playmaking center, that's their only guy, really. I think they need another. I mean, Dubois...
Dubois a winger, though.
Yeah, he's Dubois is more of a winger. He definitely doesn't take the defensive responsibilities as well. Again, they just don't attack through the middle and have great entries like most of these top teams. Like even the Jets, who are now out as well to Dallas, they attack very well and they don't have very good. That's more of their wingers. They have no center depth, but they still have those playmakers on every single line. I think that's probably where the Caps are missing the most, and maybe some of their younger guys can come up. Maybe Leonard can be that for them. But I mean, yeah, if you're the Caps fan, you don't feel too bad. Ovi's definitely on the tail end of his career, but you've got some talent coming up. You're going to be fine for the future.
I also trust the way they draft too, that they'll continue to.
Yeah, they have good
build
management
talent through the organization. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wouldn't feel too bad.
It was a tough loss. Like they kind of got dominated by a better team, but whatever, They're not going to win the East next year, but they should be a playoff team. The Metro's going to suck next year anyway.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be bad. My goodness. Unless the Canes can clutch up. All right, Jets, Dallas.
The Kings will be good. The Devils will be good, but
Jets, Dallas.
No. It's Florida, Carolina.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Florida, Carolina. So, are the Canes going to win a single game?
I think this has to be the year they do. They look really good. They got to get a game in.
I actually agree. They have the health on their side by a very fat margin. I think they can do it. I'd say it's 50-50.
On taking a game?
No, on winning the series. On winning the series. I think at the very least it goes to 6 for them.
Yeah, I think Florida. I'd take Florida in 6 probably.
It depends on how Bobrovsky plays for me.
I do like the Hurricanes, even though they play so boring. There's something about me that respects it, and I think it's the 2 years of watching Rick Tocchet hockey that has made me appreciate when a team actually knows how to play that boring game and win with it. And I do like a lot of the players on their team too. I don't really have any beef with them. I really
love
like
Jarvis.
Pardon?
I love Jarvis.
Yeah, I mean they have a lot of likable players on their team. It's just the way they play is a little bit boring, but I know. I mean, I respect it. So I want them to make it to the finals. But I think it's gonna be Florida.
I kind of have a feeling it's Carolina. It's tough to make the final 3 straight years, and I know Tampa did it in 2020 to 2022. But if you look at Florida, like Kachuk is so clearly injured. I don't think Barkov is fully healthy. Like I think if Carolina is going to do it, this doesn't have to be the year because of honestly the way that they kind of turned Natchez into 2 firsts and Stankoven is kind of masterful work. And now they have 2 extra first round picks to like use in the future to keep the team good.
Yeah.
And they have good prospects and whatever. But I think this is probably the best shot they've had so far. Although I guess 2 years ago Florida was an 8 seed, but I don't know. I'm talking over myself a lot, but I think they've got a good chance this year. They're deep. They've been here twice now. They were here against Florida, and like I think Rod Brindabor was memed a little bit 2 years ago for saying we lost in 4, but we didn't get swept because they lost every game by 1 goal, and
He
how
was
many
right
of them in
though. He was
overtime.
right.
He was right. It was just the way he said it was kind of sad.
Yeah.
I think Carolina can pull it off this year. I don't think they win the cup, but I think they pull it off.
I think the
I wanna-
Oilers would be a really good matchup against the Hurricanes, and like you said, 3 straight finals is really hard. And we even saw when Tampa did it, they were completely blown out of the water against the Avs. They did win 2 games, but one of them was like really close. It almost could have been a sweep in a way. But yeah, 3 in a row, and especially because Tampa did have a little bit of injury. They were somewhat healthy for a lot of those runs. Florida has not had so much of that luck. It'll be really hard. It'll be really hard, especially as we go down to game 5, 6, 7 in the series. It could be hard.
6, 7.
Yeah.
I just lived right on the highway. I have no idea I know what I was gonna say. I was praying for Toronto, Carolina last night so bad because I don't want to watch Florida, Carolina. I said this before the Carolina Washington series too. I was like, I took Capitals in 5, not because that's what I thought was gonna happen. I was just hoping that it would be over fast, and it was. It was over very fast. So that's good, but I have no anticipation for a Panthers Hurricane series at all.
I really want Panthers in 7 so that if the Oilers make it to the final, it'll be the most beat up team possible and we can get revenge. But I think it's going to be Hurricanes in 6.
I agree. I think Hurricanes in 6.
Okay, let's go to start.
Whoa. What's your series prediction?
I said it. I said Panthers in 6.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear you.
I said
he
that
did.
so long ago.
All right,
he
Jets
said that at the
Dallas.
start of the segment.
Jets Dallas. This was a great series in terms of the quality of hockey played. Even though Toronto and Panthers went longer, that some of the games were just terrible. Like Game 7, what a joke.
And Game 5.
Yeah, but just Jets Dallas, it felt like a lot more of the games were close. The quality of the hockey was very, very good. I didn't feel like there were many games where there was just absolute domination and one goalie was getting completely blown out of the water. It was good. I watched every single game of this series, which is more than can be said for any of the other ones, especially Caps Hurricanes. Sorry about that. But what did we think about it? What did we think about the series on a whole?
I had fun watching it. I mean, one of the games was on my birthday. It was the only game on my birthday. And I'm a big Mikael Granlund fan, and he scored a hat trick. So that was my favorite game of the second round for sure. I thought it was good. It was competitive, and looking at that the game 6, it really shows that a game doesn't have to be high scoring to be interesting. I feel like we got a lot of games in the second round that were really low scoring and really boring. But the final game of the series was 2-1. And it was really fun. Like, there were so many times where, especially Dallas was hemming Winnipeg in their own zone, and it was chaotic, and Hellebuck had to be good. And Hellebuck was good. On the bright side for Hellebuck, he didn't show out or anything, but he at least ended the playoffs on a note where it wasn't his fault. So he's got that going for him. But Dallas was too overpowering, and Winnipeg does not know how to win on the road at all. So Dallas just kind of took it, and it ended in the saddest way I think a series could possibly end in.
Yeah.
I wanted Dallas to win that series, and I was hype when Thomas Harley just slapped it home for the win. And then Sportsnet immediately cuts to Mark Scheifele, and then it's like,
That
oh,
was
yeah,
egregious.
yeah,
That was
is
egregious.
something that's
You know
also
what
happening.
else was egregious? Every single betting platform I know of, and I only have Bet365 downloaded, had Mark Scheifele anytime goal or first goal scorer as like a super bet. I know it hit, but like I feel like we can't be doing that. That feels wrong. That like just the fact
You're
that we're
telling
immediately
betting
going.
companies to be moral and ethical.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
Betting
expect it
companies
to be,
moral and ethical.
but that was particularly kind of rubbed me the wrong way. With that being said,
Yeah.
I wish I'd put $50 on it. But you
Yeah, I
know,
was gonna bet on it, but if I bet on it, it wouldn't have happened. So
yeah, exactly. And
anyway, I'm
okay,
happy with the result.
for game
And I'm happy.
6. Sorry, you can go.
Yeah, I mean, you fully cut me off
My
again
bad.
in the middle of what I was saying to say that gambling shit, and then didn't allow me to continue on after cutting me off. No, you
He
can just
hates
take
me.
the stage.
He
Then,
hates
actually.
me.
Yeah, no, you take the stage. You take the stage.
As I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted. I actually forgot what I was going to say. No, so if you look at the way that these two Canadian teams lost a heartbreaking series deciding game, Game 6 in Winnipeg circumstance, and Game 7 in Toronto circumstance, again, it matters how you fight and how you lose these games. I don't think the Jets can feel too bad about, even though they won the President's Trophy, throw that out the window. You lost to a very good Stars team. Even though they do have some flaws on the back end, their middle six can't really do anything right now. I just don't think it would be that disappointing. But again, you lost by 1 goal, and Hellebuck finally played a good road game. If you had lost 6-3 and Hellebuck let in 6 goals on those like 25 shots, yeah, I'd feel pretty bad about that, and I'd have a lot of questions about like, should we keep this core? Should Hellebuck be on the move? Should we have traded him a few years ago before we signed that contract? You'd have all those questions. But now it's just you feel really bad for Scheifele. And personally, I don't think the Jets are in a really, really bad situation, a very weird situation. Almost as bad as the Leafs, I would wager. Nobody wants to go there. The players that they have a very good core that like is already there and does genuinely want to stay there with like Scheifele, Connor, Hellebuck, Morrissey. That's a top 10 like defenseman, goalie, 2 forwards core. That's very good. But they always seem to not really turn it up for the playoffs. And I know I said maybe you should consider blowing it up in Winnipeg, but how can you? Because if you do, who's going to play there? You can't. You can tank for like a Gavin McKenna, but like we saw it with the Sabres, if you don't get it, you're gonna suck for a decade. And Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor and Morrissey and Hellebuck are going to go on to do better things. Because I feel like those guys are all very good secondary players, like kind of on that Nylander level, but they can't be the main drivers. They just aren't stepping up enough in the playoffs. So I'd be very... It kind of sucks if you're a Jets fan because I don't think they can go any further than this. I don't think they can have a better team than this. Maybe they could have a better
I would also
TC.
like to put the point out there that not that I think this is really a real story, but there have been some, the news comes out whenever the Winnipeg attendance drops that, are they in the Canadian dollar or whatever, it's like, oh, is this team really feasible to stay in Winnipeg? Like, I don't know if they can afford to blow it up and tank.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, you've got a core group of players who have all chosen to sign and stay there, and all want to be there. They like Winnipeg. They like being Jets. you had a great season this year. You're gonna lose Ehlers, I guess, but they're gonna have space. I agree that they probably need a 2C. Maybe they're the team that can afford to overpay Sam Bennett. If Sam Bennett wants to go there,
Maybe.
of course. I don't know if he would, but like they could be a team in a spot where it's we have this core, we need this type of player in this spot. Sam, would you take $8 million a year? And it would
That's
be
a lot.
It's a lot. I wouldn't pay Sam Bennett that much to play on Montreal or any team or most teams. But maybe that's the one spot where you do it and it's okay. And maybe it turns out that that's the 2025 edition of Chandler Stevenson and it looks awful and you look like an idiot. But I could go, like, if I was Kevin Cheveldayoff and I was pitching that to my staff, or if I was someone on the staff pitching that Kevin Cheveldayoff, I think it's a worthy discussion. I don't think the Sharks should go do that. I don't think the Blackhawks should go do that. I don't think the Oilers should go do that. I don't think the Panthers should keep him at that. But I think a team like the Jets, where you have a core, you have a need, he's the guy that fits what you do and fits what you need, and just the general situation they're in, I would be okay with overpaying a Sam Bennett. Yeah, I wonder where Ehlers ends up though. I think a lot of teams could use him, and I think a lot of teams might actually use him more than the 14 minutes a night he gets in Winnipeg.
Mason Appleton had 16 minutes in this overtime game. Nikolai Ehlers did not have 14. He didn't even have. He had 13:41.
It's multiple coaches now. It's so weird. Maurice didn't play him. Bonus didn't play him.
I don't get it.
And now Arneal doesn't play him. I don't get it. I understand that he's not a great defensive player. Like, he doesn't really defend all that well. And sometimes he gives the puck away in bad spots, and maybe you don't trust him in close games. But the game-breaking ability he has, the speed, the ability off the rush, the shot, like.
And I feel like if he got more ice time, he would probably fill into those defensive responsibilities a bit better, right?
Maybe. It might depend who he's with too, but I don't know. Like, I think a smart team is going to give a really nice contract to Nikolai Ehlers this summer, and is going to use him well. Now that's a guy the Blackhawks should overpay. Like, give Bedard someone with some actual pace to play with. Like, I don't know.
I think Cheveldayoff has one of, if not the hardest jobs in the league, because he's done a solid job with, considering that nobody, I think on the PA polls, or not the PA polls, there's the athletic polls, because the PA would never do this. I feel like 55%, somewhere in between 40 and 55% of players, when they have a no trade, no move clause, Winnipeg is on there. Even if it's like a 6 team, Winnipeg is the very first team.
Yeah,
I understand it, but it's really tough. And that's why those no move clauses can be kind of problematic for the league like that, because it kind of serves as, you know how MLB has the problem where the Yankees versus the Yankees payroll versus like the Athletics. It's kind of a similar thing where just it's not fair. It really isn't fair.
Yeah.
It really isn't fair.
I don't think it has to be, like, there are big markets and there are small markets.
Yeah, it'll never be 100% fair, but
there are places where people want to live and there are places where people don't want to live. Unfortunately, that's how it works. They know the spot they're in. They understand that when you get guys, like a Hellebuck, like a Morrissey, like a Scheifele, like a Connor, who are guys you have to draft and develop.
Yeah. And
maybe that's the problem. The biggest problem with Winnipeg is that they've struggled developing guys lately. Look at Ville Heinola, look at Brad Lambert, look at I guess Nikita Chibrikov still shows some good potential, but hasn't really broken through yet. Look at how long it took them to turn Cole Perfetti into a good player that they trust. Like,
yeah.
I think if they really want to be a better team, they can't blow it up, because you can't do it in that market. You've got to invest more into developing the guys you draft, because I think they actually draft some pretty good players. Like, they got Alphonse Fry in the last draft. I quite like him as a defenseman, like a puck mover. Like, obviously Brad Lambert was really good, and like some people still had him top 5, top 10, and they got him like 30, but they didn't develop him. Chibrikov was a good guy. It sucks what's happened with Chaz Lucius. You can't really control that.
Yeah, that sucks.
But
Rutger.
they have not.
Rutger.
Well, that's something. I forgot about Braden Yager too. That's another guy. They will have failed if they don't turn Braden Yager into a good NHL player. They've got to get that one right. They've got to get Chibrikov right. You've got to take the guys that you select and actually turn them into good NHL players.
I don't know if they particularly trust Cole Perfetti, seeing as he played 12 minutes in Game 7.
Yeah, I was
That's
going
another
to say.
problem. That's another one. Which is crazy because he was the guy who got them there. He
Yeah.
literally he tied the game against St. Louis. I don't know.
It is like watching a car crash in slow motion because I agree you can't blow it up, but at the same time, this group is not doing anything. I'm sorry, it's not winning a cup. And sure, maybe you have a conference finals run or two in there, but what is the goal here? Is your goal to win a couple playoff series, or is it to win the cup? You just won the President's Trophy. You have the best goalie in the league who kind of struggles in the playoffs sometimes. Maybe it's just a mental thing, but I feel like he's over it now.
He had a good series, other than I think it was Game 3 where he was kind of poor. Otherwise, he had a great series.
Yeah.
Like he was good.
But like you said, they do have the prospects to do it, but you need Brad Lambert to be a superstar. You need Chibrikov to be a legit top 6 guy, which he could be. I really like him. You need Braden Yager to be a top liner, like a Patrice Bergeron, two-way top line center. It's not happening, by the way. But
I don't think
you need
all the
them
guys
to
that
develop
hit, like,
into
their max
superstars.
potential. You need one of them to develop. You just need to develop good, solid, like, not role players, but good, solid, actual core players. Like, Yager doesn't have to be a star 1C. Lambert doesn't even have to be like a star, the next Kyle Connor or whatever. Like, you just need to turn these guys into, like, Ville Heinola should have been in the top 4 right now.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't have to go out every year. Like, they did such a good job with Dylan Sandberg. They've done such a good job with Neil Pionk, even though I think they overpaid him a little bit. But that's fine. If you have a guy like that and you're Winnipeg, you keep him. They did such a good job with Dylan DeMello. If they had Ville Heinola at that level too, they would be a better team. It's tough because it feels like they are a pretty good team at developing players, like especially defensemen. Like the 3 names I just gave are much better players now than they were when they got to Winnipeg.
Yeah.
And yet, with their own prospects, they've struggled so much in the past half decade. Like after that, Scheifele, Connor, Morrissey group that was all kind of the part of this current core that they kind of created and curated as they've grown as the Jets. And maybe they failed with the Line A thing, and that was its own thing. Blake Wheeler retired; he was a part of the previous core. But that stuff happens with every team. The fact that they haven't been able to supplement this core with the next group of young Jets that they've drafted, and they generally they have drafted well. This isn't they're going off the board and taking the 45th ranked prospect at 15 or whatever. They're not Tyler Bouchering this. Like they need to. Like they've drafted good prospects and they haven't developed them.
I think a big thing as well is it feels like Scheifele and Connor and Ehlers, like you said, they don't want to play defense. They've never been anything more than poor defensively, even under a very good Arneal defensive system, where this is probably the best defensive Jets team we've had. Like they were like 7th in expected goals against in a era where they were like 20th, 25th, bottom third of the league every single year, and Hellebuck had to carry them in the goals against department. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I just it's a tough spot. We're gonna have to move. I could talk about the Jets for like another half hour, but we do have to move on to Oilers in Vegas. I don't know what it. Or actually, Jason, did you want to say something? I know you just got back here, so you can say something.
I just wanted to say, I mean, I hate to say it, but I gotta say, I think Luke Shunn was bad and slow in that Dallas series. And I think he's been a good playoff performer. I mean, he has 2 cups with Tampa. I think he's a good player, and I like him a lot. But I think he was bad.
Yeah,
that's it.
I thought Hayden Fleury was all right though.
He was all right. Yeah, he sucked for most of his career too.
He did, yeah. I don't. Maybe
Shannon?
that's another guy that Winnipeg can turn.
No,
Hayden
Hayden
Fleury.
Fleury.
Oh, I didn't hear. Okay.
All right, so Oilers Vegas. I don't know what it was like for you guys, but I actually thought, outside of the fact that I was, cheering for one of the teams, this was probably the second most boring series.
Yeah.
Especially the way that Game 5 went. My goodness, I don't remember a thing that happened in that second period, and I was like locked into that game. I mean, this. I think I picked Vegas in 6 to win it, or Oilers in 7. I don't think anyone thought that the Oilers would finish it this quick. It was very similar to Flames Oilers in 2022, where suddenly the Oilers just played a very good team game, and the Flames did absolutely everything in their power to have all their superstars collapse at the exact same time. The Vegas played themselves out of this series, and the Oilers just took advantage of it. When you have Stuart Skinner shutting you out twice in a row, that can't all just be that Skinner had a ridiculous game. I don't think Vegas actually had a genuine scoring chance any of those two games. Maybe a few in Game 5, especially in the overtime where I felt they got their best chances. But they never had that urgency around the net, especially like right in the net front, that the Oilers had with like Corey Perry, Trent Frederick. They were just crashing in and taking it whenever they wanted to. I thought Draisaitl actually was underwhelming, which is a part where I thought that the Oilers would struggle in this series. Draisaitl, I thought, couldn't really finish. He could drive a line just as well as anyone because he doesn't really need to go move very fast or move his legs much to be able to pass the puck across the ice in one motion. I don't really agree with the narrative that he's like suddenly become a defensive masterclass. I mean, he even bought into it and he said that he doesn't want the points anymore. He wants to play defensively. He's just injured and like wasn't that good. That's why he doesn't have the points, not because he's switching to a defensive style of hockey. But I think the week off is massive, absolutely massive for this group. They needed it more than anyone else. Maybe shut up. Unless you're the Panthers and they're playing like tomorrow. So the Panthers did not get that week off. The Panthers needed that week off just as much as the Oilers, and the Oilers now will be very rested up against a Dallas team that just came out of a dogfight. But for the series, really, I just thought that the Oilers back end, who I assumed would struggle a little bit more against the Vegas forecheck, completely owned Vegas. Theodore and Pietrangelo were probably Vegas's worst players, just considering like the expectations they had, which I could have told you heading into the series because Pietrangelo sucked and Theodore had a terrible series against Minnesota. They just played a real team game, and this is probably like one of the only times ever we've seen them play a legit team game. I mean, Kasperi Kapanen won the entire series. That is like one of the worst players to ever have 2 overtime winners in the playoffs. He had one against the Caps in like Game 2, 2017, I believe.
That was a hype goal, man.
Yeah.
The Brian Boyle behind the back pass from behind the net and Kapanen finished.
Dude.
That was a beauty.
Yeah, Leafs had so much hope at that point. It just always becomes a discussion on the Leafs. But yeah, just this series, it was kind of like the Kings series with the Oilers last year, where I found myself just getting mad that Vegas wasn't fighting for it more. They were making the wrong decision at every single time with the puck. Eichel was trying his ass off, and nobody else wanted it. Literally nobody else wanted it. Eichel was like, this is my legacy. I'm fighting against McDavid. If I beat him this series, it would feel so good to be second overall. Like, you're the worst player, obviously. But to beat him twice in the playoffs would feel so good. And just nobody else really fought for it. They were a little banged up. Dorofeyev, Stone were really banged up. I thought William Karlsson had an amazing series, actually. But yeah, besides Karlsson and Eichel, everybody ghosted. Everybody ghosted. You guys have nothing to say?
Yeah. I mean, I guess what I kind of want to... I don't know if I even said it on here, but I've been on here a few times. I was not a fan of the Oilers roster construction at all this year. Like, even going from last offseason, I thought they got slower. I thought they got worse. I thought, in general, they focused a lot on guys who were maybe past it a little bit, and letting go of a Holloway never made sense to me.
Yeah.
Letting go of Broberg did, but um, even just some of the ways they replaced them and the fact that they didn't upgrade their goaltending, like I think in general the Oilers' depth has stepped up so much this postseason. Basically, past Game 2 of the LA series, they've been fantastic. Um, like this series wasn't really the most entertaining, like you were saying. It had some moments. The Oilers come back in Game 1, that
Yeah.
ridiculous Vegas
The first few
sequence
games
at
were
the
pretty
end
good.
of Game 3. Yeah, but yeah, after that, it kind of just looked like Edmonton was just the better team and deservedly won. Vegas couldn't handle the top end talent. They couldn't even really handle the depth, which was really surprising considering what you kind of think Vegas is and how they're built. And I know they're not the team they were a couple of years ago. They've run into some cap constraints, and you know maybe it was a little telling that they didn't buy at the deadline this year. That it seems like they do every year. That they didn't think this was their year, even if they were winning the division.
Yeah.
Eden Hill, I thought, had a bit of a tougher series, save for Game
For
5,
sure.
where he was obviously really good, and the overtime winner wasn't his fault. They needed him to probably be bigger in a couple games if they wanted to win. In the end, Mark Stone had a really, really tough series. I'm sure he was playing hurt, but he
Yeah,
always
for
is,
sure.
it seems like. So, Eichel was never able to break through the same way McDavid was. Bouchard was better than any of Vegas's defensemen.
That's
It was
right.
just Edmonton was the better team. And you know, even if it kind of seemed like this was the year where Edmonton maybe didn't have it, they're back in.
This is
in
the year
another
where they
conference
have it.
final. They're back in another
Yeah.
conference final. Maybe this is their Washington 2018 type of thing, where the year everyone thinks they're going to take a step back is the year where they end up doing it all. Although it's a different situation. Washington had never made it past the
Yeah.
second round, but
I mean, I think well, actually not most people, but I understood that this is the best team that the Oilers have had by a pretty good margin. But this is by far the worst goaltending tandem they've had, like, ever. And
also they've
somehow
been
that
without
wins them the
Ekholm the
games.
entire playoffs.
Yeah.
It
Well,
might have
they
been
have
just
six.
like
They have
2
seven
months
good
ago.
defensemen without him.
Yeah, well, yeah, but like Ekholm was arguably their most important defenseman the past year and a half.
Yeah.
Whatever. When they, if you told me he'd missed the entirety of the first 2 rounds and they'd look great, like, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I'd be surprised. JC, anything to add?
I thought it was a lame series, but I was actually okay with it ending early because watching it physically pained me. I didn't think it would suck that much to watch, but I couldn't stand like the first game. Every single time the puck was in either zone, I was just cheering for it to be cleared from the zone because I could not get myself to want to see a goal. So game 5 was actually perfect for me because nothing happened for so long, so I didn't have anything to be mad at. I was just on my phone like the entire game because there was nothing to watch. Yeah, it was a disappointing series from Vegas, which I'm obviously happy about. I hate Vegas. The only possible way I could cheer for the Oilers in a playoff series, and it is the thing that happened. So I'm cool with it. Big shout out to Vasily Podkolzin because he's having a great playoff so far. And on that overtime winner in Game 5, he was like maybe the biggest part of it besides capping and banging it in. He didn't get a point on it, but he's just everywhere. He's so good.
Yeah.
And if the Oilers are to win the cup, I am elated that it would be this year instead of last year because of 2 reasons. One, because I have Vasily Podkolzin to cheer for, and last year I didn't really have anyone on the Oilers to cheer for. And 2, because if they do win the cup, we won't forever have been part of their path to get there, like we would have last season.
That's fair.
So I wouldn't be happy if the Oilers won the cup. I'd probably still be a little bit pissed, but I wouldn't be like as annoyed as I would have been last year, or really anywhere close. I think we have we got 4 teams in the conference finals that are all like not particularly evil per
Panthers.
se.
Panthers.
Yeah, but it's just Florida.
Yeah.
Like, who cares? That's inoffensive to me.
All right,
I hate
we've
that. I
got.
like their team, but I don't really care.
I've got about 5 more minutes here. Stars, Oilers. What are our predictions?
Oilers in 7.
Give me Dallas in 6, I think. I just think like I don't know. I think this is Dallas's year. I haven't seen a team that's better than them. I think they'll be able to match Edmonton and more in terms of depth up front. I think having Heiskanen back is going to be huge. I think Ottinger's been the second best goalie in the playoffs, other than Frederick Anderson, obviously. I just think they're really good. They're really deep. They've been they're going to get their revenge on Edmonton from last year, and I think the cup comes out of the West this year, no matter what.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the winner of Dallas Edmonton, which is going to be a great series. I'm really excited for that one. Is going to win.
I think
That's my prediction, and I think it's going to be
I
Dallas.
think the thing that Dallas has over the Oilers for sure is the path that they had to take to get to this point, because Edmonton hasn't really been challenged, whereas Dallas has had to play two of the best teams in the league. It was LA and
the Kings
Vegas,
and the Kings in Vegas. Why did I turn my echo all the
What
way
the
up?
hell?
The Kings in Vegas are two of the best defensive teams in the league, and the Oilers currently have the most goals for in the playoffs. I'm just putting at 5v5.
LA
I'm just
was
putting that
not
out
good
there.
defensively at all. LA had Drew Doughty playing all their minutes.
Li-
They sucked. LA wasn't a challenge. Vegas clearly wasn't a challenge because so many of their players ghosted. Whereas Dallas had to play a Colorado team that took them to 7 and was a very, very good, well-built team. And then a Winnipeg team where Connor Hellebuck wasn't even giving them free wins. And they still won both. You cannot tell me right now that Edmonton's path to the conference finals was more difficult than Dallas's.
No, it
Tell me
wasn't.
right
It
now.
wasn't. It wasn't. I'm not saying that.
That was my whole point.
I'm just saying they also had an incredible. They had the second hardest path.
But yeah, because the East
I
sucks.
don't know. I think Florida had a tougher path.
Tampa was
Having to
broken.
be-
No. Tampa sucked.
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
I'm sorry, we've
Tampa
got
sucked,
to
but
cut
I
it
think that's
off.
because Florida was good.
We've got to cut it off very soon. I think Dallas could surprise some people in a very bad way. I'm going to take Oilers in 6. And that's just gonna jinx it. That's gonna jinx it.
The tendency to lay an egg. Dallas does have the tendency to lay an egg.
We have 3 different guesses here, so hopefully one of us is right.
All right. Sadly, we can't get the questions today. I've got to pee more than anything in the world, and I have to deliver keys to my girlfriend before she goes to work. We will see you all next time. This was, I think, episode 30. We'll see you after the conference finals for an even longer episode. Say goodbye right now.
Goodbye.
You say it. Okay, goodbye. We will see you all next time.